Okay, good evening, everyone.
Okay, Savannah,
Good?
we're good? Go for
Okay.
it, yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting of 3/24/2026 and the special Board of Education meeting of 3/30/26. John, Frank, all those in favor? Is everyone? Okay. Dr. Farrelly?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a wonderful spring recess, Passover, and Easter. I would like to start off by acknowledging our school library media specialist. This is their recognition week, so on behalf of the Board of Education and our administration team, we would like to acknowledge all of them for all of their hard work and dedication and how they support our students, our staff, and our faculty. And there's one in the background right there.
We get a special chair.
Okay, next I wanted to just touch base a little bit with the board with regards to Regents exams, right? In consideration of New York's shift to Portrait of a Graduate and the changes to passing Regents exams as a graduation requirement, right, that will sunset in the 27-28 school year, I would like to support the senior high school and junior high school's adoption of a hold harmless policy for all students with regards to Regents exams. That would be starting this year. This means that Regents exam scores, right, would only be factored into the student's final grade if it helps the student, right, meaning in terms of if it brings the grade up, but not if it lowers it. So if there's no board concern or objective with us doing so, then we would like to proceed and implement that starting this June. Just a general consensus. Next, ICT, right, the ICT skills period. So as a follow-up to recent Board of Education meeting questions with regards to the additional secondary skills period, I'd like to just provide an overview on our student services integrated co-teaching model, right, again, referred to sometimes as ICT or co-teaching, and this specific skills period. For many years, the skills ICT period was provided at the secondary level as an additional day support beyond what was prescribed in a student's IEP, right? It's important to note that. So this was done through a non-contractual side agreement with our Teachers Association, allowing our special education teachers to work with ICT students in a skills period in place of a duty assignment during the day. This agreement will no longer be in effect, right, for the upcoming school year. In the absence of this agreement, establishing a skills teaching period embedded during the school day, right, attached to the ICT program would cost nearly $500,000 or so. Since we have student supports available for our students to receive extra help and homework support in other ways, as is the case in many other school districts, I have not recommended to the board that we make budget reductions or that we go beyond the tax levy to create a built-in skills teaching period during the school day. So I just want to describe a little bit the ICT program, right? The main structure of the ICT program remains the same at all levels. So elementary, junior high school, and senior high school, the students continue to receive instruction from our phenomenal general education and special education teachers across subject areas. That's unchanged, elementary, junior high school, and senior high school. At the junior high school level, students will continue to have, again, ICT two-teacher support, right, in their core subject areas, of course, as recommended by the CSE, along with a dedicated lab period that's built into their schedule to provide additional in-school academic support. At the high school level, students recommended for ICT will again continue to receive instruction from both our general education teachers and our special education teachers in their designated core classes like Math 9, Global 9, again, depending on their IEP. And students in the ICT program will have more elective options, obviously. Extra help is important to note, right, that continues to be offered, obviously, before or after school. That continues to be offered by our teachers across all levels. Are there any questions, from the board level, right, with regards to this topic? I know, again, I had previously shared it, but it was important since obviously it was raised during our board meeting for us to bring that, discussion to the meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in reference to the Board of Education, I know that some of the comments I received were in reference to responding to the resident statements about the program. There were reason why there was a delay in a direct response was there was conversations that needed to take place and clarification of exactly how the program worked. That's the only reason why there wasn't an off-the-cuff response. It wasn't for lack of considering the statement of the residents or not wanting to respond. It was so that we can clarify and have some conversations behind the scenes to ensure that it was communicated properly. It is not a program that was cut by the Board of Education, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Good. Continue as being recommended? Continue as is? Okay. Next topic, really just in terms of Ms. Goebel is not here, right? To end and remind everyone, yes, we have kicked off, obviously, the spring season. Spring weather is finally here. We are excited to share that this weekend we will be celebrating our annual Blue and Gold. So if you're not in attendance, please be sure to watch via YouTube. Blue and Gold coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We are very, very excited about that. So that's all I have for this section of the agenda. And yes, I am. That's right. So at this point, I would like to invite Dr. Falcone and Mrs. Soma to come on up and to invite our special guests that are here with us from the junior high school.
Okay, please come on over here, guys. There's plenty of room over here. I'm going to scoot this over here. Let me just bring this over here. All right, so I do bring these two buckets. I'm just going to place them right over here for you guys. Good evening, Dr. Farrelly, members of the Board of Education, and to those watching from home. My name is Carlos Falcone, and I have the privilege of serving as the proud principal of our junior high school. This past fall, we had a truly remarkable experience of opening a time capsule that had been buried in the courtyard of the junior high school back in 1995. What began as a vision of then Principal Michael Rizzo became a moment that brought our entire school community together, past and present, in a way that felt almost magical. Many of you were there in this room there to witness it firsthand. As the time capsule was carefully opened, multiple news outlets joined us to capture what quickly became more than just an event. It became a celebration of legacy, memory, and of school pride. Our students gathered in Eagle Hall, and I can tell you the energy in the room was electric. Each artifact that was revealed sparked cheers, laughter, and curiosity. You could see it on their faces. This wasn't just about old objects, it was about a connection. It was about seeing themselves as part of a story that began long before they arrived and will continue long after they leave. That is the true power of a time capsule. At this time, I would like to invite members of our student council, along with Mrs. Soma, who will speak about the meaning and purpose of a time capsule and the impact it can have on a school community, specifically ours. Tatiana?
A time capsule is far more than a collection of objects placed in a container. It is a preserved moment in time. It captures the essence of who we are at this very point in our journey, what we value, how we learn, what inspires us, and how we connect with one another. Within it lives a story, our story, told not through the voices of others, but through the authentic voices and lived experiences. It reflects the daily rhythms of school life, the hopes of my classmates, and the spirit of our community.
In a school setting, a time capsule becomes especially meaningful. It allows students and staff to pause and reflect on our achievements, our challenges, and the experiences that define our time here. It provides a unique opportunity to capture the present, not just the big milestones, but also the small, everyday moments that have truly shaped our school community. In doing so, it creates a lasting record of what it means to be part of this school at this exact moment in history.
Equally important, the act of contributing to a time capsule gives students a powerful sense of ownership and belonging. When students select items, write letters, or share pieces of their lives, they are reminded that their voices matter. They begin to see themselves as active participants in something larger than themselves. This process builds WB pride, strengthens connections, and reinforces the idea that each individual plays a role in shaping the identity of the school.
Years from now, when this capsule is opened in the year 2050, it will serve as a bridge between generations. Future students will have the opportunity to look back and compare and to ask questions. They will see how much has changed, perhaps in technology, traditions, and daily life. They will also see how much has stayed the same. In this way, the time capsule sparks curiosity and meaningful reflection, connecting the past and the present in a very personal and engaging way.
Raise this a little bit. Ultimately, a time capsule humanizes history. It moves beyond textbooks and timelines, offering a glimpse into real lives, real voices, and real experiences. It preserves just not artifacts, but identity, culture, and community. In doing so, it builds a lasting legacy, one that fosters continuity, pride, and a shared sense of belonging across generations. It reminds us that while time moves forward, the stories we leave behind continue to shape those who come after us. And so tonight, we are here to continue that story. We gather not just to remember 1995, which I barely remember myself, but to replicate that vision, with the hope that in the year 2050, another group will stand where we are now, opening the capsule we are about to seal. Yes, 2050. While that might not sound like the distant future, if this experience has taught us anything, it's that time has a way of moving faster than we think.
Thank you, Mrs. Soma, and to our students members of our student council. So following the opening of the 1995 capsule, we formed a dedicated committee of students, teachers, and staff who embraced this opportunity with incredible enthusiasm. Together, they carefully selected artifacts that reflect not only our school today, but the world our students are growing up in. This evening, we are excited to share some of those items with you, along with the thought, intention, and creativity behind each one. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to recognize and sincerely thank the staff members who contributed their time, energy, and passion to this project. Their commitment is a testament to the culture of collaboration and pride we have here at the junior high school. Big thank you to Mrs. Soma, Mrs. Tomio, Mrs. Shaw, Mrs. Staffeld, Ms. Nocerino, Ms. Fiore, Ms. Ludwig, Ms. Moran, Ms. Caffarelli, Mr. Duran, Ms. George, Ms. Powers, Mrs. McManus, and we also had two members of the committee that were paras, and Mrs. McDonald, who is a member of Mr. Rizzo, and also Ms. Antoinette Luciano. So we'd like to thank them. So please, let's give them a big round of applause. So how did we select the items in the bucket? This had nothing to do with me, and it had a lot to do with the students. So at this time, I'd like to invite Zoe back again, just to kind of go over a little bit. How was it that the items were actually selected to go inside of the buckets? Zoe?
So the day we unboxed the first time capsule, the students were able to see everything that came out, and that kind of like inspired some of the stuff that went in. After they were done with the presentation, they went back to their classrooms and they were able to fill out a Google form of some ideas. We had a lot of stuff, a lot of the same stuff like 6-7, tongue, sahur, all the Italian brain rot. We had a lot of dumplings, all the Nitos. And so then a little bit later down the road, I ended up making a box for some suggestions. And one day during all of the class's lunches, we had a little box where they were able to also put in some of their suggestions. No, surprising no one, we got a lot of the same answers of 6-7, Nitos. And so me and Miss Moran, we sorted through all the lists and we came up with a nice, like, concise list of some of the main ideas of stuff going in.
Thank you. Thank you, Zoe. Okay, so if I could have the folks in the back there just kind of scroll through some. So here are some pictures. The items are in there, but I'm not going to go through each and every single one. But if you can just scroll through. So that is your typical book right there. So one of the things that, if you could just slow down for one sec, just back up once. So one of the things that we did find was when we had the artifacts from the old 1995 capsule, students were like, what is that? So it was a constant explanation. It was a constant, okay, this is what it was, specifically the beeper, right? They had no idea what that was. So in the new capsule, it is accompanied by an index card which explains what it is. So this way, with the foresight that when these things, if the principal decides to put them in the gymnasium like we did, then they could just kind of walk around and just kind of read a description. So if we can move on to the next one. So this is some of the 2025 slang. You have riz, charm or ability to flirt. Then it goes into a couple of sentences. Cooked, which means in trouble, exhausted, or done. I didn't study, I'm cooked, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide. So this is our BR3 matrix, and again, it has a little bit of an explanation. As the students know, be ready, be respectful, and be responsible. These are the core values that we have. Next slide. Now this right here is Mrs. Caffarelli. If I could have you just come up and speak to what is in her hand right now.
Okay. In November, we had the students write a letter to future students with the following prompts. 6th grade, explain popular trends and fads. 7th grade, a day in the life of a student. And 8th grade, advice to future students. I took a few written responses from each grade and put them together in the book. 2025 students enjoyed reading 1995 submissions, and I have no doubt 2050 students will also enjoy. They will not understand the many 6-7 references.
Thank you. Yeah, so again, as Mrs. Caffarelli said, a lot of what they wrote is on there, and there are a couple of copies in there. Honestly, I never really understood this duck concept, but it is one in there. And then there's a 6-7 meme explained, and honestly, even the explanation is not really thoroughly explained, so I'm just curious to see what the students in 2050 are going to be like. Next slide. And before we get into this, I'd like to have Mrs. Tomio come up and just talk a little bit about the design behind the actual buckets themselves.
Good evening. So I first want to say what a privilege it was to be a part of this committee, not just to be a part of it as a staff member, but I'm also an alumni of the district, so it's really awesome to be a part of this as well. Sadly, I was already a freshman in high school when we buried it in 1995, but now I'm back, was able to unearth it this year, getting to bury this one this year, and I promise I will be back 2050 when they unearth it too, so that would be amazing to be a part of that. I did have a bunch of my honors students volunteer their time during their lunch periods to come in and brainstorm, what are we going to put on this time capsule? What's iconic of West Babylon? And we thought, of course, naturally, eagles, to have a little WB Strong on there as well, and the BR3 matrix. And cannot forget our Be All You Can Be motto, which was wonderful. The fellow students that helped me out was Miss Keenan Rutledge, Brody Eglin, Layla McKeon, Nola Beach, and Haley Traub. They did an amazing job. I'm not sure if you want to talk about which parts that you drew up real quick. Just a quick little synopsis. You want to show them and point out what you did, Keenan? You did a wonderful job. I'm very proud of them all.
Awesome.
I did this one. I did that one. It was a lot of fun, like making. It was like so much fun making and like brainstorming ideas with everybody. Like, and every time we like went up for lunch just to like, you know, make it, we would all just like laugh the whole time and like just have fun with it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Lots of memories. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so with that letter that you see there, one letter is going to be placed outside of the capsule, and that's actually how I found it because Mr. Rizzo actually left a letter that was archived, and I actually found it. So I'm going to be taking the same steps. But one letter placed outside the capsule is written from me to the principal of 2050, ensuring that this capsule is not forgotten but rediscovered and celebrated once again. Inside the capsule, there are 2 additional letters. So the other one is going to be addressed to the student body, which is going to be inside of the capsule of 2050, sharing the details of the capsule event in Eagle Hall and even the video footage of the ceremony so that they can not only read about this moment but truly experience it. We are also incredibly fortunate to have a teacher-to-teacher letter written by Mr. William Duran, who is our current music chairperson. But what makes this especially meaningful is that Mr. Duran was a first-year teacher at WB in 1995, and when the original capsule was buried, and now, as he prepares to retire at the end of this school year, he offers a perspective that spans across decades and even a millennium. His words will serve as both a reflection and a gift to future educators, connecting their work to a rich and enduring legacy. Tonight is not just about placing items into a container, it's about capturing the spirit of who we are, right here, right now, and sending that spirit forward in time. It's about ensuring that when this capsule is opened in 2050, those students will gain a deeper understanding of who we are, what we value, and what life was like in WB in the year of 2025. So right now, I would like for you all to also put something in the capsule. Okay, so Mrs. Soma, if I could just have you please distribute the cards. So on this particular card, I'm just asking for a couple of things, right? One, we need to know who your name is. And then the second thing is, what are some words of wisdom that you would like to offer the students in the community in 2050? And then the third piece is, what makes WB such a special place? And again, I think that it's important for you guys to be part of it too. And as Mrs. Soma is handing that out, I will distribute the letters that are in the capsule, not to read now because they're rather long, but in the event you do want to read them, just please take one packet and pass it down.
No. We will return our homework assignment, Dr.
Okay,
Falcone.
sounds good. Okay. No. You know what? Take your time, and yes, please inter-office it to the junior high school, all right? I would very much appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and thank you for having us. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Well done. Is it okay, Dr. Falcone, for me to have a picture, to take a picture of this crew? Is that cool? Okay.
All right. Adults in the back?
Just pass those down. What?
Thank you, Joel. Phenomenal teachers.
Gosh. The COVID test, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that was funny too.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
Yeah, right, get out.
Cool beans.
Oh, they put the band in there. I was gonna say they should put one of these in.
Thank you, Dr. Navarro. Yes, in the time capsule, a picture. I'll send it to you for the yearbook,
And any
definitely.
suggestions on what you would want in it, please feel free to put on the back.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, team. Thank you. Let me just ask them. Just give me 1 second.
All right. What would you think we should put in there? Why'd you turn? Yeah, I'm trying to think the opposite. What's something? The beeper.
This is very cool.
So there are students that would like to say a few words, kind of on behalf of the Culture Club as part of like a student association group. So do you want to have them go before the budget?
I think everybody should sit through the budget presentation.
Oh my God, me too.
Okay, so you want to
Yes.
I'll just divert
Is
you
that
in.
okay? Yeah, yeah, so, okay.
That was a great
We'll
try.
do- Yes, okay. Okay,
right.
so we're going to go a little bit out of order before starting our budget presentation. I noticed that we have several of our students from our high school in the audience, and they would like to share a statement on behalf of kind of the Student Culture Club, right? So please come on up to the podium. We're going to save you from waiting and speaking. That's okay.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Excuse my attire. I just came from Blue and Gold.
Yay, blue and gold.
Yes. My name is Jocelyn Serrano Turcios, president and founder of the West Babylon High School Culture Club. Tonight, I am accompanied by my vice president, Kennedy, and publicist, Alexis, and my secretary, Sofia Fuentes. We will present some accomplishments and goals that the club has made this year and hope to achieve in the future. Alexis?
Hi everyone, how are you? Good evening. My name is Alexis. I am the publicist, so as my job, I have to publish, you know? So, okay, where do I start? Okay, sorry, I didn't print this out. I feel so unprofessional. When people hear Culture Club, they might think of food, music, or celebrations. And yes, those things matter. They bring color, joy, and life into our school. But what we're building is something deeper than that. We're building a place for people to be seen, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you here either got bullied growing up, discriminated, there's so many different things, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want your children to go through that. Right now, there are students walking through our halls who feel like they don't belong. Some are new to this country, some are still learning the language, and some don't have a strong support system or a solid foundation to lean on at all. Too often that they feel invisible. Our club exists to change that. We want to make a difference. Our future plans are not just about events, they're about impact. We want to create a space where every single student, no matter what, where they come from, they feel like they have a voice and a place to stand. A place where their culture is not something that they have to hide, but something that is celebrated. We plan to host cultural events that go beyond the surface, not just showcasing traditions, but sharing stories of struggle, resilience, and identity. Because when we understand each other, we stop seeing differences as barriers and we start seeing them as strengths. But we don't want to stop at our school doors. This is something that we want to make much bigger than that because it is no child that deserves to feel that way. Our intention is to expand into Long Island communities, reaching beyond our hallways to connect with others who may feel overlooked. At the same time, we plan to raise money to make that possible, not just for events, but for real opportunities. Opportunities for students to experience things they may not otherwise have access to, like trips, educational programs, and community projects. A lot of students come from families that don't have a lot of money. We want to give them things that they can't get on their own. We want to build them up. We want to make them better. By combining our outreach and fundraising, we can grow our impact and give back. We want to support minorities in our community. We want to help immigrants from our home, more students. We want to create experiences that builds confidence, connection, and belonging. Because inclusion is not just a word, it's an action. It's inviting someone to sit with you. It's listening to someone's story. It's making space for people who have been pushed to the side. Our Culture Club is not just about celebrating where we're from, but about shaping where we're going. And where we're going is a future where no student feels alone, no culture is overlooked, and every person feels like they belong. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Hastings, and good evening, excuse my attire as well. I'm the vice president of the Culture Club, and I remember when just last year, my good friend, Jazz, came up to me and asked me if I wanted to not only join the club, but help. And coming from a background, well, I'm Jamaican, but, okay, sorry. So basically, I joined the club not only to learn about others, but to express who I am as well. I remember when I moved here from Queens years ago, 5th grade summer, I was scared of being shunned and left out. And I remember 6th grade, I was. And it made me feel different and ashamed of who I was. So when Jazz asked me to join, I felt like, wow, I'm being seen. I could learn about different people, learn about different places, because different things, different people make a community. When I first moved to West Babylon my 5th grade summer, I knew how a Jurassic would change my life would be. Seeing people who look different than me opened new doors to explore how different life is for different groups of people. I love to express my culture to my neighbors and introduce them to new foods, traditions, and dialects. Growing up in West Babylon taught me how to be proud of who I am and not to hide myself from others. When people, especially children, feel the need to hide themselves because of their cultures from the world, it holds a deep place in my heart knowing I was in their position before. I used to be ashamed of who I was, my family traditions, and my roots. When the Culture Club was founded, I saw a glimpse of hope for students and staff to see how different people can be to form a community. We've done many things to help our community as well. We hosted a car wash, washing trucks, police cars. We washed a fire truck. And with all the money we gained, we didn't use it for personal use. We used it to help the school. With all the money we earned, we held a teacher and staff breakfast. We provided free hot meals for staff just because we wanted to show our support. As well as going on from the show, it really helped me learn about different people. Because now I know different cultures, different roots, different dances, and I would have never known that if I didn't join the club. And I even speak a little Spanish now, so that's my proof. Another thing the Culture Club has provided are scholarships. I am honored to say I've won a scholarship, and not only will that help me, but I believe it will show a glimpse of hope for other students who want to join the club and are in need of financial aid. Thank you.
As you can see, this club has much potential, and we work to make current students and incoming students from different backgrounds to feel included and seen. To scholarships, field trips, and potential travel opportunities, we want what's in the best interest of our students to make the best out of their high school experience. The Culture Club works for the students, but several of our members and participants have experienced retaliation and disrespectful attitudes from other students. This experience is overall unpleasant and shows how this community needs to do better when it comes to loving your neighbor. We need a reminder that no matter what color your skin is, what language you speak, or where you are from, at the end of the day, we all bleed red. I'm excited to see what the Culture Club has in store for our future, how it will affect the community, and how it will make students feel. I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to our hardworking advisor, Mr. Ruiz, who took the role of what 3 advisors can do, and the high school staff who are very supportive in the Culture Club. I'm happy to inform the Culture Club has done well and can hopefully be considered as an official club for next year. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you, ladies. I can definitely speak on behalf of our whole group. Well said, well done. As an aside, these ladies came to Mr. O'Leary and I a little over a year ago to present their ideas of, again, doing all these different programs and what they shared in terms of beyond the WB high school walls. They're right. I mean, they've been out in soup kitchens, right, feeding those that are less fortunate. So we applaud your efforts, right, of unity, right, and celebrating everyone. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. Budget presentation team. At this point, I would like to invite Mrs. Galante to the mic. We're going to kick it off. I think I kick it off. Now that I'm thinking, I do kick it off. All right. So tonight is our final formal budget presentation. A few minor changes, right, from the the last presentation. So we will highlight those. Can you click for me? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. So as a reminder, right, our program component, the general framework of our budget, of our proposed budget for the 26-27 school year, maintains, right, our increased AIS program at the elementary level, our kindergarten, our district-wide athletic programs as it stands now, of course, obviously always enrollment dependent, clubs and co-curricular programs, the mental health professional student supports that we have in place, high school elective offerings, right, again, enrollment dependent, our CTE, current BOCES, student offerings, The SAIL, right, Students Accelerated in Learning Elementary Program, IT programs, the physical wellness at the high school program in terms of the weight room and fitness access for our senior high school students, Chromebook and smartboard replacement plans. Couple of key areas, right, that don't necessarily aren't necessarily kind of seen, right, by the public, but are a huge part of the budget in terms of the actual numbers. Health insurance, right, the projected increase that we are being told will range from 12 to 15%. So what does that mean for us? That means that this current budget, from this year's budget to next year's budget, includes almost $2 million, and that's specific to health insurance increases. TRS system, you'll see some numbers there, ERS system, and then contract transportation. Specifically with contract transportation, we do have an increase of about $1.6 million. On the kind of other side of that ledger is the in-district transportation. Those lines are lower, right, as a result of us having less internal routes, right, and then more contract transportation. Couple of program component increases that are included in these budget lines. We've spoken about these before. Student Accelerated in Learning Materials, right? That's the SAIL program, materials and supplies associated with that. The music department instruments, $10,000 for music instruments. Something that wasn't in the prior, right, presentation, art department repairs, right? We talked about that as part of the art department presentation. So we established a budget line for $5,000 for the art department. Technology department, $5,400, library department, and student field trips, that doubles what the current budget is for students to be able to attend field trips throughout the district. Transfer to capital line of $250,000, and that is specifically for the PA system at the high school, right? That is a health and safety matter, and we are looking to, have that done certainly as soon as possible. That's included in this budget. Student services, we've spoken about this a number of different times, right? This current school year that we're in, and as part of this agenda, right, we have a resolution that includes budget transfers, right, to increase the student services special education budget lines as a result of increased student tuitions and professional services to support special education programs. That is as part of this agenda. This specific slide speaks to the increase in next year's budget for tuition and student services, professional services, and that's about $1.1 million. These are some other component areas that do reflect an increase, and they fall under the general category of administrative component. And again, Ms. Galante is going to go through kind of the line by line. So all of these that I am mentioning are embedded in those lines, but it's just so that you already have them, as a reference, right? So part of the admin component lines includes increase in architect fees, legal fees, voting, right? And just as a side note, right, the B&G personnel still remains in terms of the same. We're looking to see if we can, make some kind of internal changes there, but from a number of personnel perspective, it does maintain it the same. We do have some changes in terms of number of sections, right? So from an elementary school perspective, this budget includes adding 2 additional elementary teachers based on expected kindergarten enrollment. These were highlighted in prior years' long-range planning enrollment studies, expecting the kindergarten numbers next year, right, to be higher. At the secondary level, this budget does include some decreases in sections, and that's based on enrollment, again, also projected as part of that long-range planning review. Other components, program component increases spread throughout the budget lines, right? The Junior High School Academic Center, benchmark reading materials, software programs, right, for students, cybersecurity, the MTSS LinkedIn software that we spoke about at various presentations, and also a summer incoming K program, right, as part of the transition orientation program for them. We're not looking, this does not include a summer regents offering in August, right? However, we may be able to use some Title I funds, right, for some eligible students that may need to retake a regents exams during the summer. some areas in which there were some decreases throughout, right? And again, it's not, everyone all of our employees, right, that retired, then the new hires, right? There's a difference in the salary of the new person leaving as opposed to the person retiring. So those budget reductions or adjustments were made. Approximately 5 aides, paraprofessionals. Why that says approximately? Because even though there may be some more planning for in terms of 5 less kind of a junior high school and senior high school from let's say a hallway perspective, the unknown is the student services side in terms of the paraprofessional needs. Is that still ongoing? I mentioned the in-house transportation costs that having decreased as a result of, again, the increase on contract transportation.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Farrelly. And we'll go through the lines. Again, I am not going to read each line. We'll just point out a few of the lines that have the variances, either a significant increase or decrease. So we'll start with the administrative component, and we'll look at the district clerk line, which is up. And that was due to the Suffolk County Board of Elections not supplying the election machines anymore. The district has to take over that responsibility. So there's costs that come along with that. And it also added some BOE services for the election ballots and supplies that are needed.
The other piece, Ms. Galante, I'll just mention on that, I think I mentioned during the last meeting, right, that Ms. McNamara, we were getting additional quotes, right, from our local papers, right? And those costs were significantly higher this year, right? And I shared that once we got those numbers from this year, then we would adjust next year's numbers. So that was adjusted as well. Inspect the hourly rates for election inspectors, that's also part of those codes as well in terms of the district clerk's codes.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, and if you look at line 1310, you have a small reduction, and that was due to 2 retirements in the business office and 1 person leaving the business office, and the hiring of 3 new employees in the business office at naturally a lower salary than the personnels that retired. Okay, next slide. 1680. That's personnel. Again, that little decrease is due to employee retirement and new employee coming on. 1680, it was call central data processing. It was like a little bit over $500,000. And what it was were BOE services for various departments. So to try to streamline the departments and let them be aware of and know what we are purchasing from BOCES for those departments, we moved all those BOCES expenses to the various departments. Like IT, they were given the Parent Square and the eSchool that they use. B&G had the ticket system from BOCES that we use. So we moved those all over to the various departments that make sense that they should monitor the BOCES services. So the next slide, I believe. Okay. So the curriculum, again, it's increase, and that's really due to contractual obligations. And so is the little decrease in the supervision of school. That's all your teachers and all the things that they need to run the program. It also includes not only salaries for teachers, but it includes salaries for substitute teachers, the aides, contractual obligations, supplies, student field trips are in the 21 area, and things like that. So the total admin cost is $7.5 million was total administrative component. Next slide. Now the capital component.
Quick question,
Yep.
quick question on that slide. The total administrative component is the same number as the last presentation, but there's changes in some of the lines. I guess it's essentially a living budget. I get it.
It definitely is. It's a lot of in and out, right, of
Right.
those, right, and they're all kind of small different amounts, right? So some examples, right, the 2010, right, although kind of there's a net decrease overall, there's still changes in between. So as an example, that does have an increase in one of those lines of $4,000 for Megan's Law lessons, right? You know, that happened in terms of throughout. There's an area there I had mentioned beforehand of the art department that's included in there. So although the net is a negative here on some of those lines, those additions in terms of were there. So it's a lot of kind of little pieces swinging in and out, right, of those codes, right? In general, the main decrease, right, it's like ultimately from the last meeting in terms of to this meeting, we had two employees that retired, and then we replaced them, right, in the budget to be determined with, obviously the salary is in terms of different there, right? So the variance there was something like $40-something thousand, right, in terms of, but in between those there's just a whole, actually, no, I'm sorry, the replacement salary, about 40-something thousand or so. So then there's a lot of little things like that, like I mentioned, the art department, the 5,000 there, the Megan's Law, student gifts and plaques, association fees, the Beacon South Bay actual numbers, they're all embedded in there, even though as increases, but the net is still a decrease in terms of throughout.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a lot of the in-between lines.
Yes.
Yep.
Correct. All right.
Oh, by the way, Science Olympiads, right, and DECA, that's in there as well, $10,000 for those competitions. Typically, when they've made it to some of those competitions, because we don't have an established budget line for it, I am pulling and transferring 300 from here, 2,000 from here, 1,000 from here. There's an established line now there that was established using the difference of that salary.
Okay, great.
Yep, yep. Okay, so now the capital component, and that has to do with mainly your operation and maintenance of your facilities. And you'll see an increase there due to not only contractual obligations for salaries, but our vendors, like we have to bring in companies to inspect certain things, and their fees are always going up. And then also the board would like to see the B&G department, Building and Grounds, Facilities Department, do more work, you know, themselves. And that, in the long run, saves the district a lot of money. So in order for that to happen, we have to give them more money in supplies, so they can purchase the supplies that they need to do those jobs. Debt service, 9730, that had an increase in it because of all the borrowings that you had for your bands, for your CVA settlement cases. TAN, you go out every year to borrow money for your TAN because you don't get your taxes in on time. So your taxes don't come in until, I believe, January, February. So you're actually operating for almost half a year without the tax income coming in. And then the installment purchases, so you have buses that you had bought at certain times, you have some B&G vehicles, and then you also have your energy performance contract. You have two phases of your energy performance contract. Phase 1, the 26-27 year will be your last year of phase 1, and then your phase 2 actually just started up this year. So that's what makes up that line. So the total for your capital component is a little over $14 million. Do you have any questions on the slide? I guess we should do that as we go along instead of going back and forth. Good? Okay. And then the last component is the program component. And this is the biggest component of the budget because it does involve all our teaching, both for regular school and for our special ed school. So again, contractual obligations, 2110. Supplies, salaries for your teachers, your sub, your aides. It also includes tuition for your charter schools, which is on an increase. Charter school students going out to charter schools. We've seen an increase over the years, not only in West Babylon, but a lot of other districts have seen it. And also, if we ever have a foster child in district, there's another separate line for the foster children education. It also includes your student field trips and conferences in that line. And like I said, all the supplies and the equipment that the teachers need, regular ed teachers need to run their programs. 2250, teaching special education. Again, like Dr. Farrelly said, it is more of an increase than that $42,000 that you see there, because we shifted some money, about $1 million, a little over $1 million, from your special ed CTE program to a different line. It's in the 2280 code. That's called occupational education or CTE education. And in that line is that those programs for both regular ed and special ed students. So actually your increase in your 2250 line was probably just a little over $1 million.
I thought that was being split, the occupational education into two different lines.
Well, yes, it is, but here it's the total.
It's a total, I got you.
It's the
okay.
total.
I got to look at
Right.
the finite number. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
yes, but when you see it on your line by line, it's two different lines.
Right, and the
Yep.
line-by-line report
Yep.
that you guys have is separate. Yep.
Yep. We can go to the next slide. Okay, 2630, computer-assisted instruction. Dr. Farrelly mentioned a few things that is driving that line up. It was the additional software that was put into that line, the cyber, I don't want to say cyber insurance, it's a cyber software that the district will now have to help detect anything that's not right within the IT programs. So that's driving that line. Also, the shift of the BOCES charges that was put into the IT lines, like for Parent Square, eSchool, and things like that. Okay, next slide. 2815, health services. Again, that health services line is for West Babylon students that attend a private or parochial school in other districts. So those other districts have to provide them with health services, and then in effect, they bill us back for those services, okay? And again, that line will always increase depending on your enrollment of the students that are going out of district to, like I said, private and parochial schools. Okay. Next, 5510. Let's talk a little bit about pupil transportation. So again, Dr. Farrelly mentioned that our in-district transportation, we have a decrease in the cost there because, again, with the struggle of hiring bus drivers and keeping bus drivers for district transportation has been an issue. So as they are they're kind of retiring or leaving faster than we can hire anyone, so that's where that decrease is coming from. But on the flip side, we're using more contract transportation, and that is increasing, and it increased by about $1.6 million, because we were somewhat under budgeted this year in contract transportation. So actually, the net, if you take the savings of the pupil transportation and the increase of the contract transportation, the increase in contract transportation is about $878,000. Okay, next slide. $90-20, teacher retirement system. That has decreased because the contribution rate that the district needs to send the teacher's retirement system has gone down. It was from 10% to 8.24%. And again, that's based on your salaries for all your employees in the teacher's or retirement system. Where if you see the line above it, it's increased a little bit, and that's your employee retirement system. That's all your employees that are in ERS, not teachers. In other words, your custodians, your food service people, they're all on ERS. So that has gone up, that contribution rate has gone up a little bit. driving that increase. FICA is the taxes that we pay on our salaries that we pay for our employees. And next slide. 90/60 health insurance. Again, health insurance has been kind of all over the place. I mean, we pay for health insurance like half a year and half a year. So one half of a year could be a 8% increase. The other half of the year was a 2% increase. Now, this half a year that we're in now, that we're going for July through December of 2026 is around 9%. And the problem is that the half a year of January to June of 2027 is an unknown. They're saying it could be anywhere between 12 and 15%. So we kind of went somewhat in the middle, hoping that it'll come in on the lower end and not any higher than the 15%. And that, again, is an increase that we have no control over. So that's what's driving that line up almost $2 million. Dental insurance is down a little bit. We didn't change our dental provider, but we did change our dental agent during last year, and he was able to keep the same coverage at a lower cost for us. So that was a good thing. Next slide. Again, I'm not gonna, you don't see it too much here, but Medicare reimbursements are also going up. What happens with the Medicare reimbursement is that our retirees do get, district has to pay retirees their Medicaid premium, Medicare premium that was taken out of their pension, because night shift forces the retiree to go on Medicare once you hit 65. And what's happening, what we're seeing, is more retirees are coming in with a higher premium in their reimbursement because they're going back to work. So that's all based on how much you make as a retiree. So if you are a retiree and then didn't work for a few years, and all of a sudden now, you know, things are getting tight, and you decide to go back to work, when you get your statement from Social Security's, your Medicare reimbursement is going to be higher than just the standard rate. And that's what we're seeing now this year. In fact, I think you have a budget transfer of about $125,000 going from our health insurance code for this year into our Medicare reimbursement code for this year, because for this year we were short. But that's a trend that I think everyone's got to keep an eye on a little bit. And then the interfund transfer, again, we have always had interfund transfer for special education. That's the district's portion that they have to pay for the summer program. But this year we also included a interfund transfer to capital for the $250,000 that's going to be used for the high school PA system that is desperately needed to be replaced. So the total program component is $119.897, and actually the whole budget, which is on a different, you can go to the next slide. Okay. So the next slide is about the tax levy. So once again, tax levy is not your tax rate. It's not your tax bill that you get. It is the levy that the school asks the town to levy so that the district can have the funds for the budget. For the 26-27 school year, West Babylon's proposing a tax levy of 2.21%, which is within the tax cap, requiring just a simple majority approval. Okay, so we're not piercing the cap. We don't have to have more than the 50 plus 1% in order for the budget to pass. Next slide. All right, everyone talks about, you know, a 2% tax cap, 2% tax cap. And just so you know, this is the formula that we used to come up with your levy of 2.21%. And if you see the line that says allowable levy growth factor, 1.02, that's 2%. That's what that 2% is all about. It's the number within that formula that can never be more than 2%. It could be less than 2%, but never more than 2%. Okay, so that's where that 2% comes from. It doesn't mean that your, whatever a district levies has to be 2% or lower. It can be higher. There are districts out there that are levying almost 4%, and they are within the tax, legal tax cap limit. All right, next slide. Again, the levy for West Babylon, 2.21%, simple majority vote. Next slide. And this is just a revenue slide that's same from the last time because nothing was changed on the revenue. We haven't heard anything for state aid.
2 weeks late.
Not
on the,
a word,
state.
not even a little whatever, but, so again, I guess the most important thing about the budget is that it is a balanced budget of $141,539,066, meaning that's how much we're anticipating on getting in on revenues, and that's the only amount that we can spend on the expense side. Next slide. So when you go for the budget vote on May 19th, I believe it is, you'll have 3 propositions. Proposition 1 is to vote for the budget. Okay, next slide. And again, you're voting for a budget of $141,539,066. Next slide. So what happens if the budget doesn't pass? What can the district do? Well, you can go out and submit the same budget again, or you can revise the budget and go out for another vote, for a revote, or you can go directly on a contingency budget. So if the budget is defeated for a second time, the Board of Ed must adopt a contingency budget. So let's talk about a contingency budget. So if you're on a contingency budget, I was on with my district 1 year on a contingency budget in all the years I've been doing this. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. There's only certain things that you could spend your money on, and that is to operate and maintain school buildings and education programs, preserve the property of the district, and ensure the health and safety of student and staff. You cannot buy any new equipment. Public cannot use the buildings if it means that it's going to cost the district money to have people there. Capital expenditures are not allowed, can't build anything. And non-instructional and non-unionized employee salaries, there will be no increases in them. So what does another contingency budget have to happen? There is a 0 levy increase. So right now, the levy increase between this year's budget and next year's budget is $1,898,922. If we had to operate on a contingency budget, we'd have to find that amount of money in this budget that was just presented to the community and lower it by that $1.8 million, or almost $1.9 million. If everyone remembers, when we were doing our presentations, at one point, we had a gap of about a little over $2 million. So we closed that gap, right? Which took some doing. And actually, before you even saw that gap, there was a gap a little higher than that that we worked on to close. So now we would have to find another $1.9 million and close that gap if we went on a contingency budget. Next slide. So how would we do that? where would the district find this money? So again, a lot of the things that were put into this budget, like the Sale Elementary Enrichment Program, co-curricular programs, field trips, academic center, software programs, equipment, all those things would have to probably be taken out of the budget, besides probably other expenses, till we came down to a budget that, without that $1.9 million. Okay, proposition number 2, Dr. Farrelly.
Proposition number 2 specifically focuses on the allowing the district to utilize the remaining funds from the previously approved capital project by the community of 2022. During those presentations, and those presentations are still online, we spoke about that if there were any remaining funds, right, if the projects came in less, throughout the process that was anticipated, that we would utilize the funds for B list items, right? Throughout a process with the state, we were notified, right? I mean, it's still actually being reviewed, but nonetheless, the fastest kind of way to expedite the process to allow us to utilize the remaining funds for the B-list items is to put up a proposition, which is what we are doing, asking the community to, once again, even though it was previously approved, right, to allow us to utilize the remaining funds for the junior high school construction project. It is critically important for everyone to understand that this has no impact on our budget for 26-27. This has no impact on the tax levy, on our expenditure plan, none of the above, right? This is purely, again, funding that is left over from that project to utilize for some capital, much needed junior high school work. Next slide, please. This is a graphic, right, that shows what we're talking about. If anyone has been to the back of the junior high school, you know the condition that it is in terms of the asphalt, in terms of the concrete. It's all broken up, the tennis courts, the basketball, right, all of the above. So this is to redo that entire area, the handball court, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, the asphalt, the concrete, some seating area there. What happens if Proposition 2 does not pass? Again, from a financial side, right, there's no financial impact, there's no change to the budget. The budget for next year doesn't get reduced or changed or adjusted. And again, the levy remains exactly the same. The project doesn't happen. The junior high school, the back of the junior high school remains as is. And then the funding there, right, we would establish some sort of plan to pay off debt. Right, but it wouldn't be able to be used for anything else. I mean, the board certainly can consider re-putting it back up, in terms of for a vote, but again, it wouldn't offset or change anything with our expenditures. Third proposition, right, will be to utilize our established capital reserve for additional facilities projects. As we know, and not unique to WB, right, our buildings are aging, right? We consistently are enhancing and improving our facilities, right, as you see in our facilities newsletters, but there is definitely so much more to do and continue to do, just like with our homes, right? So in May of 2023, the community authorized for us to establish a capital reserve fund for future capital needs. And it was specifically so that we didn't have to consistently go back, right, to our community to say we need a new bond for this, we need a bond for this. So this proposition number 3 is asking the community to authorize and allow us to use up to $4.5 million of the established capital reserve to upgrade our fire and burglar panels, to replace school ceiling tiles and lighting throughout the district, and additional parking, Tooker, and JFK. Again, this proposition has no impact on the budget or the levy. What happens if proposition number 3 does not pass? The funds remain in that account, right? They're not touched, they're not used for anything else. They remain in the capital reserve fund, and the work that was outlined in terms of the lighting, the ceiling tiles, upgrades, parking, and whatnot does not occur.
Dr. Farrelly, I'm sorry.
Sure.
For Proposition 3, I noticed that there was parking. I had asked you earlier
Yes.
for JFK and/or Tooker, but at some point, are we going to monitor Sanapog and the parking at Sanapog?
Yeah, we definitely can take a look at that in terms of in the future, right? The need and the analysis and the costs and the survey and the secret, right, all the different pieces, and then discuss, really at any point, right? That capital reserve that was established, right, asked for obviously by our board and our community approved it, is specifically for that. So if that is the next priority area, right, for our team, then we would ask the community to allow us to utilize additional funds from there for specifically that, definitely, yeah.
Of those two propositions, some of that expenditure is aidable from the state? If it's
Yeah, it doesn't
done-
matter the funding source, I think,
Right.
right. So if the project meets the criteria from the state in terms of exterior and interior work, which obviously ceiling tiles, right, inside, and then
Right.
parking lot outside, right, then we would receive the same aid.
So a percentage of the 3 million being spent would come back?
Comes back in terms of
to
in
the
the form of aid, in the normal aid, state aid
Great.
process. Yep. Reminder, our budget hearing is here, May 5th. And our budget vote, May 19th, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Administration and Sanapog. And that is it. Any questions from our board on our proposed budget? Again, from the last presentation, really minor changes, but in general, on any of the budget lines, obviously.
I'm sorry. How are we calculating the state aid, since I think they just extended again, a budget extender, I think, what, yesterday or Monday or something?
So we, along, with other districts, since both the assembly, right, both houses, right, are seeking or asking for basically a minimum of the 2%.
Right.
That seems to be, we're going with what the general, everyone is hearing, right? That
Right.
it'll likely be at least 2%. So we accounted for 2%.
Okay, if it comes in, if it comes in 2.1%, is that going back to,
Doesn't change the expenditure plan.
Right.
What changes is in terms of on the revenue side,
That's what my
right?
question was, yeah.
Yep.
okay. So we would pull less from a reserve or something to that effect?
Yeah, and that happens every year, by the way, because the exact number, that's why sometimes when you see in terms of Newsday and the numbers in terms of from the state, in reality, a district may or may not have received some of those numbers based on if they didn't close out some of their expense-based, aids or their projects.
Right.
So that varies, and their reserves then, then these other numbers start to get shifted based on that, right?
Okay.
Most of these are projections.
Right,
Right.
and if the state comes in at 1.9 rather than 2?
Same thing.
Same thing's gonna happen?
Yep,
Okay.
same thing, definitely.
All those state aid numbers that came in January, February, they're all based on estimates that districts have, the numbers that districts have given state aid. So those numbers, even as far as I think everything closes out, maybe the end of April, districts can go in and change those numbers. So the state aid numbers may change. It may go higher, it may go lower, depending on the changes. I believe this year, what you are receiving in state aid is a little higher than the numbers that came in on that state aid, on those state aid runs
Okay.
back in February, because numbers do change.
Right.
And it could still be, let's say, at least 1%, right, let's say in terms of the 1% above in terms of the foundation aid, but maybe if, from the student services perspective, right, additional students stacked, right, kind of there are other variables that will change still the 1% equivalent.
Absolutely,
Okay.
because not all that is information has been processed when those numbers were put in. So a lot of districts don't go by the runs. I tend to just try to go by the runs because more likely than not, then the active figures that actually come in are higher. Some know what the figure should be higher and they make it higher
Right.
in their budget to start with. But I think if you stay with what's on that run, you're kind of safe.
Right, okay.
Did you state that if Proposition 2 gets shot down, it goes up for a revote?
The board can discuss if you want to do that.
Okay, that would hold true for 3 also?
Yep,
Okay.
definitely.
Speaking about the Prop 3, I just wanted to know what happens, how do we replenish the capital fund after, if let's say it is approved and we spend the $4.5 million, if we get back, I'm just throwing an arbitrary number, $2 million back from the state because of capital improvement aid, does that go back into the capital fund?
No.
Or how do we replenish that account?
so two pieces. Aid comes back as part of that aid package, right? Like in terms of expense-based aids, right? So that's how we see kind of in terms of the money coming back there. In terms of replenishing the capital reserve or any of the other reserves, it's based on your end-of-year balance, right? Like, so at the end of the year, right, depending on where we end, and, we go through our closeout process with obviously our business office and our auditors, we're not going to have as much left over this year as we had last year, right? But your fund balance, where you land in the blue, right?
We can transfer
then
that
we
in.
discuss that in terms of with the auditors, and then as part of that discussion, then we'll recommend to the board this amount to go into this reserve, this amount to go into that reserve, this amount, yep. So that'll be part of every year process, right, after we, close out the books and our auditors present to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Is the capital, on that same point, is the capital reserve kind of the last one that would get replenished from the end of year? Because aren't some of the reserves calculated based on like a liability or a threshold?
Yes. So
Okay.
you never want to be over-reserved. You never want to
Right.
have too much in your reserve that, So there is like kind of a formula that the auditors will use. They'll
Right.
take your like average expense over the past 3 or 4 years, and
Right.
that's basically how they kind of eyeball it, what
Okay.
should be in that reserve.
Okay.
But then, it depends on the plan of the district. Some districts like to put money in the capital reserve, so they don't have to go out for a bond.
Right.
It depends on what you're looking to do.
Right. Well, I guess that my question is the capital reserve fund is not as, is it as crucial to the rating of the district or the strength of the district as, let's say, the other reserves like TRS, ERS? Don't those have more
All
impact?
your reserves will affect your rating, all your
Okay.
reserves.
Even the capital reserve?
Even the capital
Oh, okay.
reserves. Capital reserves is like one of the hardest reserves because you have to get voter approval to take the money out.
Right.
Most of your other reserves, you do not.
Okay.
So, yeah, it depends on what the focus of the district is.
Please, go ahead, Mrs. Desmond.
So the other thing with the capital reserve is when you established it, it's for a fixed period of time.
Right.
Mhm.
There's a maximum amount of money you can put in over that time. And the way that the proposition was drafted is that you're limited by the amount that you put in the proposition to say each year, we will add this amount. So
Right.
it's also
Yeah, I think it said
subject
not
Right.
to exceed or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then now when you take it out, let's say you take out that 4.5 and you add it in, so now your total reserve, let's say you added another 5, your total reserve amount of money that was in that reserve is 9.5. You can't just start from 0 again.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You always,
the total amount.
the total amount, even though you've taken some out over the years, it's the total amount that ever went into that reserve.
Okay.
Any other questions? Good. All right, so on tonight, as part of tonight's consent agenda, right, then the resolution, I should say, right, of the Board of Education, of the West Babylon School District adopts the proposed budget for 26-27 school year in the amount of, as was referenced beforehand, $141,539,066. Okay, and that, we'll pass the baton over to you.
Okay, at this time, a statement of residence on agenda items only. Any resident wishing to make a statement must come to the podium, state their name, address, and any organization, any organization they represent. They could also write this information on an index card and give it to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. Comments about individual students or employees are not permitted. Each resident will have up to 3 minutes to speak, with a total of 15 minutes allotted. Responses will be given after all statements. Questions needing further research will be addressed at the next meeting. Nope. Okay. Okay, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Kathy, Steve, all those in favor? It's everyone? Okay. Okay, any old business? Nope. New business, Dr. Farrelly.
So two new business items. One is just a general discussion on charter schools, right? And we've referenced it as part of our budget presentation, and I think also at a prior board meeting. For reference, right, at the current moment, we are spending out of this year's budget $207,000 approximately in charter school tuition, right, payments for 13 students that attend charter schools. New York State requires that school districts send the charter school a payment of about $16,000 per student, right, that attends the charter school. In next year's budget, as Ms. Galante shared, we are budgeting $304,000 specifically for this purpose. We obviously, right, as this continues, and obviously in some other school districts, significantly a lot more, right, than our school district. Charter school growth, right, has created a fixed or increasing, right, cost for school districts. There have been a lot of different discussions, and we see them because we receive notifications from New York State School Boards Association, from New York State Superintendents Organizations, from NYSET, right, teacher unions, right, all of which are discussing, right, specifically in terms of charter schools, not specifically one or the other, right? But all are advocating basically for some proposed solutions and more choices per se, right, in local communities as it relates to charter schools, right? So there are some proposals that are being advocated for that include changing oversight or approval process, right, from the SUNY system to the Board of Regents. There are other proposals with regards to conducting cost analysis on the fiscal impact, again, of charter schools on public schools. Modifying, laws with regards to accountability measures, right? There's different kind of variations to the different advocacy efforts surrounding this topic. Another area, right, that is being advocated on is extending kind of transitional aid, right, to some districts when maybe their charter enrollment exceeds a particular percentage, right, like 2% or 3%, right, of their school population. So right now, as I mentioned beforehand, there are many different groups and entities that represent, right, boards, superintendents, administrators, teachers that are advocating, right, for these, various different efforts. There are some school districts, some Board of Educations that are considering passing resolutions with regard to charter schools. Again, not taking a position on a specific charter school per se, or pro or against, or anything along those lines, but more specifically advocating for greater local control, right, and community input, i.e. seeking legislative change for like the application process, right, that if a charter school is going to be started or is being proposed to be started within a local community, that the local voters maybe should have a say, right, on that before being, submitted and formalized. Again, it aligns with the broader trend, right, and the various different discussions. You've received communications, and henceforth, that's why we communicated, and I shared that I would, bring this right to as part of a new business. There's nothing that needs to happen in terms of from us, right? However, because I do know, again, we're receiving communications from other school districts or teachers associations, since that conversation is happening and at some board tables, I did not want to not have it, right, in terms of here. We could consider a similar resolution that obviously our attorneys would go through and vet and give us advice on, or not, because again, it is also being advocated through all the local groups. Obviously, any sort of board conversation only happens at the dais, so hence that's why the conversation, I added it to the new business section of the agenda.
You just explain the breakdown. Student A is currently in this district, goes to a charter school. We essentially get hit with
$16,000. Well,
bill from the charter school?
$15,993. Yes.
From the
Yes.
charter school that we're obligated to pay. I guess I just have a legal question. I'm sure there's districts that have challenged this legally, right? But how is the charter school, how is the taxpayer responsible for a charter school if it's not considered a free common school? The state shall provide for the maintenance of a free common system of free and common schools. Where is the legal? I know I'm hitting you there with a curveball.
That's all right. It's in the legislation. It's very simple. It's the way the charter school legislation is written.
Right.
So every single school and school district is comprised, it's either a common, a union-free, or a union-free, which doesn't mean you don't have unions, by the way.
Right.
Union-free, central high school districts. Charter, and for each of those, there is a whole body of law that governs how they function, what boards can do, what they can and cannot do.
Expenditure oversights, et
The
cetera.
same thing exists for charter schools. So there's a whole section of the education law which talks about charter schools and dictates how all of that happens, and that's why you're responsible, because of the way the legislation is written.
So some of the
Not
advocacy.
the philosophical free common school piece. It's just
Understood.
that it's a
Understood.
creature of statute.
Right. No, I get ed
Yeah,
law
yeah,
is
yeah.
something separate.
Yep,
So it's safe to say this was voted on by the legislature and
correct,
it passed the legislature.
correct.
And so you had said that there was a template, a proposal that was used?
There, I had,
or-
I had shared
yeah.
that in terms of in that email, right? If there was board interest, obviously that's not on this agenda, right? If there was board interest in some sort of resolution speaking to kind of agreeing that some changes happen, or right that there'll be local control in terms of if there's a legislation that happens or that changes, right, that if there's a charter school that is looking to come to, I don't know, West Babylon, right, that we would be in support of the law changing to say locally that has to be voted on, right, or something to
Should be
that
some
effect.
kind of a referendum or something.
So that, again, was a question because it was, it's been, in terms of circling around. If there is an interest in that, then that sample one that was being floated around, then obviously, again, our attorneys would take a look at that, and then we would get their advice on next step. So if there's an interest in that, then I would take that next step of that sample one that was shared, and we would have those conversations, not now, separately, right, to take a look at that and provide advice.
We could add our own verbiage in there as well?
With MAS's approval, yes.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
So you'd like me to
I'm
take a
fine with
look at, for us to kind of look at the sample together, and then we'll come back to you on
Yep, sounds good.
yay or nay, and if yay, using this verbiage. Okay. All right, and then the last topic in terms of new business, again, I shared, recently shared with our board, right, in an effort.
Well, I got a question. What would you not approve? I mean, if it's our words. We
If
could
it
say
puts-
whatever we want, right? I mean, it's a board, right?
Well, you can.
You would recommend we didn't say certain things.
Right, if you're going to put yourself
Right.
in a predicament, you would
Right.
recommend
Oh, no, of
that.
course. You would
Yes,
advise, you would advise,
I would
right?
advise not to.
Yes.
Right, all right, good, yeah. Okay, because if we approve it, then that becomes the word of the board, right?
Essentially.
Essentially. Okay.
Yes.
Don't worry, we won't embarrass anybody.
I was just going to say, I hope that doesn't.
No, we're not
Yes,
gonna,
exactly.
we're not going rogue.
yes.
I just was like, it just seemed like a weird step of approval.
Sounded like you were going wrong.
So, yeah, it sounded like Chris was going
Did you see
rogue.
us
Yes,
switching?
Chris,
No,
yes,
no, no.
yes.
Because we will go back and forth on a paragraph or a sentence of a
Yes,
paragraph
of
5
course.
times,
We
so
do
it was
that
more
all
of
the
a
time.
inside thing, yeah.
Yes, we do. Because are you good?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so graduation, right? I recently shared with our board in an effort to ensure graduation, right, remains within a safe, comfortable, enjoyable, right, experience, right, comfortable capacity limits, right, for our junior high school and senior high school graduation attendees. Our team has met multiple times throughout the school year and discussed the need for us to really implement and make some changes, right, for junior high school and senior high school graduation ceremonies going forward. So starting this June, right, we are looking at issuing each graduate up to 5 graduation tickets, right, for a formal in-person attendance in terms of the junior high school and high school ceremony. This adjustment will bring the total estimated in attendance, including graduates, to still about 2,300 people, right, in terms of individuals on site. We would implement an online ticketing system, right, similar to the one being used, right, for blue and gold events and other school district events. We would, of course, continue to live stream. We've been doing that for a number of years so that ceremonies could continue to be enjoyed, right, by family and friends from a distance as well. The dates and times for this year's ceremonies, right, would remain unchanged, right, as has been listed on the district calendar, right, for over a year. And again, unless there are any objections in terms of from the board, I would like to authorize Mr. O'Leary to begin to share that information, right, with our families. Obviously, all the logistical stuff comes later on, but at least that initial change so that families are aware of that, right, several months in advance. Junior high school and senior high school. Yes.
So my other question is.
It's okay.
So my other question is, I'm just trying to envision how we're going to enforce the ticket.
So the ticketing system, yeah.
How the access points.
Yeah. So those logistical pieces, and again, when I mentioned in terms of meetings, it's been not just, it's been the building team, right, our head of security, all of us, discussing those. We're envisioning using the ticketing system in which it would be either scanned or someone can print out, right? And there are a couple of logistical pieces behind that, but that's the general concept. In terms of location, we will need to establish kind of which points, which are the points of entry, right? And then obviously all of the, I'll call them WB representatives who are going to be scanning in terms of the tickets at the different spots, right, to scan for the actual either paper ticket, right, or the phone-based ticket, again, similar to that. There definitely will be, which is why, we're going to want people to start getting there earlier, right, all those pieces, right, in terms of the entry point. Are there going to be hiccups? Yes, right, like we're definitely anticipating that. However, there will definitely be some inconvenience in terms of the entry piece, right, especially year one, right, in terms of people getting through that. We talked about that a lot. I don't want to compromise safety because of, right, the inconvenience of that process, but you're absolutely right, Dr. Right, like that process, we're going to need to establish several different points with several different employees, right, to do the scanning and the entry of all of our guests.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in case of inclement weather, just refresh my memory, how many tickets?
Great question. Yes. So Plan B forever has always been.
I don't want to jinx anything. Yeah.
I know. Plan B has always been, right, that if inclement weather, right, if we do have to go indoors, the class is divided in two, and there are 2 tickets per student, right, in terms of attending graduation. Now, I will say that the graduating class is smaller now, right, than it was in terms of years ago. It still would be tight. Because I was just going to say, like, I wonder if, when we calculate that out, it'd be tight. But could we squeeze and manage to do one ceremony, right, with 2 guests? May still be too tight. But yes, the plan has always been the class is divided into 2, and each student receives 2 tickets, right, to attend in the pack. Mr. Hanley, were you going to say something?
No, you might be able to, if we divide it in 2, you might be able to provide.
Maybe add an
more
additional one.
tickets.
Mhm.
Just 2,
Yeah.
you might be able to go with 3, but again, you got to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
How did they come up with the number for the traditional outside ceremony? Was it 5? You said 5 tickets?
Yeah, so it was kind of a back-end number in the bleacher capacity numbers, right? Obviously, the field is a field, right? How many students are on the field, that's a separate piece. We know we have in terms of the tents, right? And how many seats could be, we have that family tent. And there are, again, different families that are invited there, but a portion of the family is there, so accounting for the number of seats there. But the starting point was the bleacher capacity, and in addition to that, right in front of the bleachers, right on the track, we typically have 1 row in terms of for handicapped, right? So that will still be the case, but we'll add another row all the way through in a staggered, right, like manner. So how we got to the 5 was how many seats, right, in terms of capacity, plus we account for chairs on the track in a staggered way. What does that give us? How many graduates do we have? Multiply out the number.
So we're eliminating
That's how we
that
got to
congestion in front of the fence?
That is definitely the goal.
Okay.
Do we know how many were at the graduation for the senior high school last year?
I do not know.
It was packed.
A lot.
It was
More than 3?
A lot.
standing room only.
Okay.
Not just last year, but the last couple of years, right? Especially that area, right? This, so you're the bleachers, everyone's sitting. that there, but definitely last year, right, kind of, there were several lines of people standing there like this, right,
Right.
in that.
So, I mean, knowing,
Graduation starts at 1. They're still coming in at 1:30.
right,
Just
right.
finding parking, walking, it's,
How do we plan to police the other perimeters of that, of that field? Because I know if you come in from the one side, obviously that's the main kind of entrance, right? But you also have that whole other side of the field where you have the soccer field and the lacrosse field and the backside parking of the junior high school. Like, how are we gonna police that
Well,
area from
just
not people
using
coming
our
in?
our coverage of personnel, right, in terms of the different locations of people, right,
They
in
used
terms of
both
the different areas.
entrances for graduation last year,
Um,
because people were
many
walking
people?
from Pape
Right,
through that.
yeah.
You mean
that
separate
first-
from, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I
And they
think
walked through.
the junior high access was locked. I think I had to walk around.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you know, we're gonna navigate through using all of our personnel, right, in different areas, to, you know, account for coverage, right, at the entry points.
Could we get a presentation from security on this idea?
Oh, like our head of security to present all of it? Sure, we can do that. I can voluntold.
I
Additional
don't,
questions?
I don't have, like, for me, I just, when I read it, like, I was there the 2 times, these incidences that happened, and I kind of, I don't know, I kind of feel like take a week to get some feedback and some other questions I haven't thought of before we decide for sure. Like, that's just me. Because we have a meeting in a week anyway, right?
Sure.
Is that
No,
is that
that's
causing?
no, absolutely. That's completely fine, right? So my plan was to have Mr. Leary start to share that out this week, and then
Yeah.
meetings with PTA, right, and all those pieces. We absolutely can push that forward. I will share in general. Obviously, I don't know in terms of what you'll be thinking of, but the things that I had reservations for in
Yeah, maybe
all
if
of
you
the
share some of
various different meetings all then went like this, because at the end of the day, I have a major safety concern, and everything that I thought of was people are going to be upset because of change and inconvenience. Everything fell into that bucket for me. I don't know what like the pieces or whatnot. So that is what ultimately and not just me, but other members of the team as well. I mean, we met several times, same thing. You know, our high school admin team, same reservations of change and the limit or whatnot. Yes, last 2 years we had incidences, but in reality, these were coming because prior years we can tell you different situations that were all 100% led to or contributed the tightness and the compactness and being well over where we should be contributed to the problem.
Yeah, I'm not saying in reference to deciding yes or no. I mean, in reference to the what-if questions. You know, because we'll say publicly, yeah, this is what we're going to do, and then there's going to be 20 questions about, well, what do you do in this scenario? What, you know, a toddler, what do you know, what, it's who gets tickets, what age, you know.
Yeah, but I would suggest that not be flushed out in terms of here, right? In terms of the toddler, the stroller, my so-and-so is in the wheel, right? Like kind of all those nuances and scenarios. That would be my recommendation. If you'd like to, we can, and then I'll kind of bring the team. But to be honest, right, we're going to be creating and navigating through that, right?
No, I understand
So
that,
we've gone through and like we've looked through different ticketing systems, but a concern definitely is exactly what Patty shared, right? Like as people are coming in, everyone at the same time, you know, it's going to be an all hands on deck, right? In terms of the scanning, people are going to get irritated, people are going to be upset, right? All those pieces. It's going to be that constant reminder of this is, you know, and again because it's also the first year, right? So despite all that, I don't feel comfortable at not, right, like doing so, even though I know that the following 2 weeks there will be a slew of emails and calls and people being upset, and I got there and I sat online for an hour, right, kind of all those different pieces. I don't know how, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable in not moving forward with making a change, particularly when it's not just 2 years, it's been years in the coming. And again, Mr. Wallace and I have, I think, had this conversation every year after each one of these large-scale events. By the way, it doesn't matter how many adults or security or of a phenomenal team we have, because we do have them. When you have that many people well above, we haven't even talked about weight limitations and like all those other pieces, right? In some ways, it's shame on me that I didn't do this ahead of time because of the people will be upset over change and you know, and the inconvenience, because it will definitely be inconvenient. There's no question about it. You know, in terms of the wait time and the entry process, and especially year one.
I think in reference to, from a safety perspective, I don't think anybody's going to say no, especially what happened last year. Maybe what we do is just, any questions we get, we accumulate on our own until just prior to the next meeting, then submit it to you.
Yeah, that would be great.
You're probably
No,
going to
that would be
have
great.
encountered every question by that point, but then maybe we could just review those
Definitely.
questions and have it all.
Yeah. And there may be some that we haven't, right? Because
Right,
again,
that's
even
my
amongst
concern,
the team,
right.
even though we've met several times, we've met a whole group, then there's been several kind of smaller groups on different topics. We're still navigating through the, okay, we'll need to figure out how to do this piece of it. We'll
Right.
need to, right, how many people will we have? Right, that's another piece. No date change for this year. However, for the following year, there are also discussions about, you know, the timing of it, right? You have more people available in terms of staff and personnel at other times of the day, right? So that would be in terms of for next year, right? Because again, the dates and times have been established since last year. But all of it is under the umbrella of, you know, what helps, you know, the enhance the safety. And again, the enjoyable day of graduation, right? I can tell you that probably hundreds of those people, that was not particularly enjoyable for them. You know, we know what we will all sing watching them, right? You know, and that I, in good conscience, can't recommend that we continue to do that.
I think we're all in agreement in that aspect. Yeah, something's got to make it a more enjoyable and secure day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So definitely shoot out questions, right? Send me questions, right? And then what we can do is during the next meeting, I can
do a
kind of recap. I
Okay.
can touch base in terms of with the team, and then any questions that we're still working on, and will be an honest answer if we're still working on that piece of it. Definitely.
I'll just ask one thing, and then we can obviously discuss this later on, but I think the incident that occurred last year happened post-graduation. Or at least that's what because I don't remember seeing anything. I left before, you know, some incidents happened. How do we address the end of the graduation? Like, are we gonna, you know, do we have a plan to like kind of safely usher people out?
Well, here's the piece. We also spoke about that, and we don't want to remove the, you know, there's a, there will be less people there, period, right? Like, you know, so when you have X number of tickets, right, you're issuing them, right? Like, I'm just thinking from a family household, right, in terms of your immediate family, right? When there isn't, so there will be less people, right, in terms of bodies there. We do still want families to come to the field and take their pictures, right, and whatnot. And the same process of, right, our security team, you know, in various different places and ushering in terms of people out. We will always invite Suffolk County PD to come and be a presence, just not because we're anticipating anything happen, because quite honestly, I mean, I personally love the presence of having, right, like, you go down to Times Square and you see additional officers, it's just, right, like, amongst a lot of people, right, there's just a different kind of peace of mind, right? Whether they come or not, that's a different story, right? There's different graduations, and they typically don't, right, unless there's an issue, right, that they're called upon to come. We've tried to do the, we've tried that as well. So in terms of the ending, right, we are envisioning a similar process where families are invited to the fields, right, to take pictures with their children, and again, strategically have our department in different areas to help, you know, escort people out, eyes everywhere, right, and obviously proactively responding if necessary, but hopefully it's more proactively engaging and taking pictures than anything else.
Thankfully, they responded the way they did
Correct.
last year.
Yes, absolutely, definitely.
The year before, there was a little argument between two parents that I think Mr. O'Leary handled extremely well.
And the student on the bikes.
So,
Yes, right. And the prior year, the other side, yes, yeah.
Dr. Fairley, just a quick question. The timeline was just as a courtesy of trying to get the information out quickly, not that we wanted to buy that purchasing of the ticket app and all of that sooner? Because I think
No, we'll still, I mean, there's some logistical pieces there, but we're within appropriate
Okay.
timeline in terms of with the app system. I mean, there are definitely, obviously, some loading of things, right, and whatnot. but waiting an hour to a week or two. No, it really was more of I would like Mr. O'Leary to share information out in the event that, I don't know, 10 family members are coming from Florida, right, or something to that effect, so that everyone has an understanding of the number of tickets for on-site viewing, right? That is really it, but no impact. All right, so send me any questions that you think of. Again, it'd also be good for us to kind of go through those, anything that we haven't, talked about, right? Ensure that we do, and then we'll circle back around to it on Tuesday. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, that's it, right?
Yes.
And then we're doing the post?
Yes.
Statement of residence. Any resident wishing to make a statement, please come to the podium. State your name, address, and any organization you may represent. You can also write this information on an index card and give it to the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations. Comments about individual students or employees are not permitted. Each resident will have up to 3 minutes to speak with a total of 15 minutes allotted. Responses will be given after all statements. Questions needing further research will be addressed at the next meeting. No? No? Okay. We need a motion to, exit public session and enter executive session to discuss contract negotiations and student matter, or?
Yes.
And a student matter. Kathy, Steve, everybody, all in favor? No, that's it, only one. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.